My name is Rodrigo Graciano. I'm a Java champion.
Okay.
I'm one of the leaders of the JUG of New York, the New York Java SIG. I don't know if you ever heard about it, but it's the first Java user ever created 27 years ago, a few months after Java was created. I'm also part of the JCP executive committee for the Bank of New York Mellon, and today I have the pleasure to be with my friend Paula.
Thank you. I'm Paula Santana. I'm a developer, backend developer, but at the last, I've been so tried to do this for pay my bills, and I am MIP Microsoft, and I JUG leader from Dev Java Girls in Brazil. And I wish everyone here understand better how features between Java 10 and 21. And for this, we have a schedule today about some informations and features related developer experience, and about the feature of the Java, and some informations about GC and performance. And let's start to talk about some information. And we have here about JetBrains' latest survey of the development ecosystems reviewed. There are still a lot of used for Java 8 in productions, with 60% in the year 2022, followed by Java 11 at 48%, and 30% for Java 17. And out of curiosity, how many of you use Java 8 in productions? Raise your hands.
Whoa.
Raising your hands, don't be shy. Okay, and who uses Java 17 in production? Okay, anyone uses some versions below Java 18? 18? No? Okay.
Okay, good. So as you saw on this here, you know that probably you noticed that this adds up to more than 100%. So it was asked which versions you have currently working in production. So many people work in more than one project. So that's why you see this going to more than 100. This number on 2021, if I'm not mistaken, was above 70% for Java 8. Which is surprising since Java 8 was released in 2014, so we are 9 years behind and many versions behind. So as you can see, the Java 11 2018, and we're going to have Java 21, the next long-term support, released in September this year. So if you're using Java 8, you're almost 13 versions behind already of Java. Okay. Between those versions, the 8 and 11 are feature releases. So feature releases, they are being released since Java 9 every 6 months. That's the cadence of Java. And they decided to do that because before, Java had no release cadence. It was being released every 3 years, 2 years, whenever it was ready. While other languages, they were being released on, I don't know, every 6 months, every year. So Java thought, okay, we need to change that, and we need to ship things faster to be competitive. That's when they decided to have a release cadence of 6 months. So Java has a new release every March and every September. Okay? So smaller versions between those, 9 and 10, 12, 13, they are feature releases. They have 6 month supports only. Those other that are long-term support, they have a longer support. If I'm not mistaken, Java 8 has until 2030 support because it was a massive number of people still using Java 8. Others, they're going to be less than that. Also, you notice that between 11 and 17 was 6 releases. So it was planned to have a long-term support every 6 releases. And then they decided to change that to every 4 releases. So you expect to have every 2 years a new long-term support release. And today we're going to be talking about new features of Java. We will heavily focus on the project Ember, which are the projects that the developer will interact more. So everything that the developer can, it's more related to coding to make the developer life easier. So that's what we're going to focus. Those are other projects, Project Loom, Panama, Valhalla, there's Leiden, Lilliput. There are many projects happening concurrently in Java. which is great to make Java competitive again.
And let's talk about some features related to developer experience. And we started with local variable type inference. Maybe many people here use it already in productions. Who use it? Okay. So it's about this feature that allows a reduced code you write in Java while maintaining the type safety of the language, preventing programs from having to declare a type of objects, which often makes the language more verbose. Okay, it's so very common for Java developers. Hear about complaints and amount of boilerplate in the Java language. It's very common. It's a part of all the day. And this example, a method has some declared variables here, like quantities and productives. And notice that even the methods there are being used for these variables have to declare the return type. So, but we needed still to declare the type of the variable, and in cases where the types are complex, they can generate more confusion when reading the code. And with the type inference feature, a new reserved word was introduced, like var, and which can be used when declare a variable. This reserved word must be used only in this scope of the methods. When user var, the compiler can infer the type of the variable. But for this, it's necessary we initialize the variable, and we need to keep in mind it's not to do with the var keyword in Kotlin, because as in Java, this keyword will not validate whether or not the variable can be mutable as in Kotlin, okay? And consider that the var has more context-specific delimitation. It's possible that it can be also used in repetitions flows like for and try cat. And follow these changes, we have in Java 11 another feature, local variable syntax for Lambda parameters. This feature allows us to use a var inside the Lambdas. And before, it was not possible to use a var in Lambdas. So with this feature, we can do. But maybe you think like, oh, if we can simply not use a type in Lambdas, why would we use a var? It's because it allows better uniformity of the code. And since the var would indicate declarations and variables in the code. Another point is that allow us to work with modifier variables in this scope of the code, such as uses annotations for validations. And, okay, maybe if you hold people use it, everyone uses lambdas inside the code, and it's so common, you can just use it like you have a habit to use it. But you also be possible to declare variables if you can choose like annotation validations in this scope, or you can use it the whole approach to, in the same code. If you cannot do use it together. Oh, you can use it the both approaches, but different blocks of the codes.
Okay. So next, I'm going to talk about switch expressions. I don't know if you can read, but switch expression was first released as a preview feature on Java 12. Then there was a second preview on Java 13 before being a final feature on Java 14. Preview features was a way that Oracle found to get feedback from the community before making a version final. Okay? So you release, you get feedback, improves, and roll out. So it was released on Java 12, 13, final on 14. To use a preview feature, it's not enabled by default. You need to start your JVM passing this argument -- enable -- preview. Okay, so if you get Java 12, you try to run without that, you cannot use switch expressions. If you pass this argument, it works. On Java 14, it became final. That's not a problem anymore. It's run out of the box. Many of the features you will be seeing here, and future of Java, everything is being released like that. Preview features before making a final version. This allows us to make the change to Java faster than it was previously done. Okay, so this is a block of switch until Java 11. So you can see there is a switch, a case statement. So like in case it's pay, tax is 1.5. We have to declare the tax variable before. Then we have breaks and everything. So this code is very verbose. It's very hard to read. If we had like, I don't know, 5 more cases here, 2 more cases here, is already a mess. More than that, probably sometime you forgot to add the break statement somewhere. I did. Probably everyone did once at least. And then if you forget the break, what happens? You get the value from the next case statement. So it makes a mess. Switch statement. This is the same code now using the switch expressions. Okay, so now you can return the variable, the value directly from the switch expressions. You see you have the case, pay, case, fast payment. Then you have the arrow function 1.5. That's it. You don't need the break anymore. That's much more readable code than we have seen in the other case. Remember, this is the exactly same functionality as we saw in the previous slides. And you also can have the full values added to here. But you may ask, okay, what if I have a more complex use case, then I cannot do in a single line? Well, in this case, you can see the third case Bitcoin, coin beautiful. You open a bracket, you say double text, you're using here, and then you use the yield keyword to return the value. So in this case, yield is returning the value in this case statement. Keep in mind, this is now a switch expression. You cannot have different return types like in a regular any method. So the switch expression here is expecting like to return a double, and your default use case here is just printing something. That's not allowed. The compiler will complain. You need to be returning a double for every case.
So we started about another feature, text blocks. We've had 2 previews and released the final in Java 14. And this feature, there are delimiters that indicates the beginning of end of the block of the text, and you can use it for 3 double quotes. And you can use it through the text blocks and like ATM, JSON, SQL, or another content. But let's understand how we build strings. I know you are how to do this, but as well must know, for case of the multiple lines in Java, there are many forms of constructor, right? Such as the use of a string builder. But consider that the most of the common simple scenarios, and the prior of this feature, like in this slide, we have an example like a carry in SQL. And we can see here like a lot of concatenation. It's so common to see something like that in some projects, especially in older projects. And often, if we require some escapes, we don't have here. Maybe if you construct a big test like ATM, you need to do something. And it is so difficult to read and to maintain. And after that, with text blocks, it's possible to build in strings with multiple lines in a more readable and simple way. We can see here we just started with a 3 double quotes and finish with a 3 double quotes, and the whole things consider the same block of the code. And this GPI, there were many details related to implementation of this feature. But let's consider just few. As in this first example here, previous, if you construct some tasks like who don't need a constructor something like PDF document, and you need to put a lot of terminators for constructor this document. And in this first example, in the second example, we can see is the same result. This is because the end terminator is to be added automatically in this context. And in these cases, if you need to use R terminator, yes, you need it, but because it's only end terminator is automatically. But in another example, like ATM here, we used a lot of indentation to turn more readable this code. And in this case, we needed to consider and it started the mark of the indentation started in the 3 double quotes. So, and these points here, after or before, don't be considered for the indentation. You need to consider it started just only in the position of the 3 double quotes. And some tips, we use text blocks to clarify the code, especially in the multiple line strings. And if the content is short, we just have strings for this. And avoid to use text blocks in the complex context. I use it like example Lambda here, but in whole context, in codes with difficult readable.
Okay. Now next pattern matching for the instance of operator. Again, you see it was preview on 14, preview on 15, part of Java final on Java 16. All right. Who ever saw something like that, using the instance of and then having to explicitly cast the variable? Whoever saw that? Yes, good. All developers, good. All right, so we had to do that. And we see this code very frequently. If you ever implement the equals, you're going to see something like that very frequently. All right, so here what happens. If object instance of a string name, and then you explicitly need to cast to string the object. But think, why? Why do I need to do that? The test just passed. It's true. Why do I need to explicitly cast that? Well, that's how it used to work. It's a mess. It's not easy to understand, especially if you're new to Java. It's very complicated. The new pattern matching. So here we see if object instance of string name. Now you don't need the cast anymore. Here the name is already useful in this context. It's already was already declared in this scope. So you can start using the name. Just I want to point out, you have the else here. I put on purpose this else. So you have system out println name. This name, the compiler would complain, this name does not exist in this scope. Okay, so the name, as it passes as true, the name on the if, it passes as true, the name only exists in the if. It does not exist in the else. Okay? If that was negated expression, like if not object instance of a string, the name would only be valid on the else block. So keep that in mind, the scope of the pattern matching.
And this is something every Java developers know much. And what is this? This feature, it's about something related to our daily routine, because every time we needed to deal with exceptions, and especially no pointer exception. But we know in some cases it was difficult to understand the exception message, especially for beginners. So in this improvement, it's possible to have a better visibility of which object is null. And let's see the example below, how it will be executed before and after this feature. So here I have a simple example, and I forced here a null pointer. And if I run this code in the past and the before way and after way, this feature, I have this result. We can see the previous example. That was only the line where the error occurred, just the line. OK, this is a simple code. Everyone understands this is a null pointer where. But in the example after the feature, besides the line, we also have the complete information of this object is null. So it's more clear. We know how and why happened the null pointer. OK. The previous example seems very simple to be validated, but in the real life, we worked with a lot of objects composed with another objects, and it's much objects, okay? So the exception message is sometimes it's not clear which object was null inside another object. So in this case, we have a client here, I do a new instance here, but this object, there are attributes with composed another objects. So if I run this, let's see how the message. And we can see it's much clearer because after the improvement, that the credit attribute of the client is null in some previous cases. In this case here, we can see where, because the return value of credit is null. I know the problem is because when I try access the client attribute, the amount, this attribute uses another one that is null. And it's so more easy to understand. I know if you're a senior engineer, you can just debug some minutes to understand, some seconds to understand how this is lying or what's happened. Depends of the object, it's more difficult.
OK, let's talk about records. So records is probably one of the favorite features of every Java developer. Just curious, how many of you use Lombok? About 20%. Why did you choose to use Lombok? Why? Good, faster to write code. Good. I used Lombok as well. Not happy about it, but Lombok came to because of reason, right? We are writing codes, and then we have a class, we have objects, then we need to have getters and setters and equals and hash code and into string and a lot of things. And what value is this code adding, right? What business value are we adding? None. But you still need to have all of those. I know everyone uses IDE. I hope nobody uses Notepad to code anymore. But you can do it automatically, but still, you need to generate all these boilerplate codes, right? So here's an example, right? Here we have the class product. We have variable, a long type ID, a num type, and then you don't have enough space to print getters and setters here, but you have toString equals hash code, a lot of things, and really nothing really matters here. The important thing here is that we have a class and we need to have accessors to the class, and it matters. So introducing records, that's your new class. It has exactly the same functionality as what we saw before. So this and this, they have the same code at the end of the day. Right? Behind of the scenes, the record will generate a final class. So keep in mind, a record is final. Okay? Because it's final, there are no setters on records. Okay? That's one difference. They are not serializable by default, but they can be. Another thing, your get, by default, the get on Java is get and then the variable name, so get ID. There is no get anymore. It will be just ID. So we have before the something type, it's going to be type open close parentheses. Okay? So again, that is much more easier to read. You don't spend time writing boilerplate code here. You focus on what is important.
And sealed class had two previews and was released the final in Java 17. And through the sealed class feature, it's possible to better control in-rands in Java. It's because to understand better, let's look this code here. And in this, where we have a sealed class here, sealed, we can use it in interface or class. And we have an interface sealed. And in this code, where we have the control which class can be implemented or extended this. It's through using this keyword here, permits. It's a new keyword introduced through this feature. And this is necessary, this child class, to be final. It's because to avoid the further extensions. And it's possible a subclass from the sealed class. It's also be a sealed class too. But if you can't, you don't need to do this. But you need implemented invariants and polymorphism in this child class. We must use another new reserved word that non-sealed class. Like this, Facebook was a final. We changed this final for non-sealed. This is allows Facebook, this class Facebook, to be extended through the login, class login. So this is a feature, and you can constructor more readable ways to constructor boundaries of the context, the domains, and projects Java.
Okay, let's keep on pattern matching. So pattern matching, it's, as you said, there was a lot of releases on related to pattern matching since Java 17, and it's going to be final now Java 21 in September. This is how it will look like in Java 21. So we have here this pattern matching. We're using a switch expression. We are receiving the object O. And then case is string s. And when s.length equals to 1, you print s. Right? For all other cases of string, it will fall on the second case method. So case string s, not a single character. That also works for enums. It also works for records, arrays, nulls, and you can also have default values. Again, we're seeing here the arrow operator. You don't need to cast anymore, right? So that makes this code much more readable. If you think on how you're writing, or you were writing switch before, you would, before each one of them, you would be using casting. So this, maybe 10 lines of code probably would turn like in 20, 30 lines of code, a lot of garbage. So this makes the code much more readable. That when it's changed a little bit over the versions, but that's how it's going to be on Java 21 final release. Paula just spoke about CO classes, and also you can use this pattern matching with CO classes. And the interesting thing about CO classes, and that's also true with enums, is that the compiler can know who can extend the CO class or who can implement the CO classes. So that's exhaustive. So in this case, it's social media, and the only two implementations of social media are Facebook and Instagram. So now in this case, you don't need to have the default clause anymore, because the compiler knows that only Facebook and Instagram can implement social media.
And the record pattern, it was following a feature, the pattern matching, allows about the used record for these kind of tests inside the code Java. And this is, we have a record here, a client, and we can use it inside to test of the type of the class. And through this, we can access the attributes of the records. This is change the code, and we can use it more, more readable and validated more the code. And it's possible to the constructor, the record. What is this? This is meaning. It's like you can use it directed attributes of the records, like this. I don't need an instance of the point, a class point. I just need information about X and Y to be to constructor something with this. And together with this, it allows used var, like I told you. We can use it annotations inside, in these cases, to validate something. And I know, no, and this is the last session for you. And it's a lot of information in the whole day, but let's talk some about the feature of the Java.
Okay, so as a preview feature on Java 21, we're going to have string templates. So they complement the existing string literals and text blocks. So you can have, so in this example, you have string name Joan, a string info str dot a string, and then between brackets name, so you have the backslash and name, and that is going to be converted to my name is John. So probably you see something similar when you're doing, I don't know, SQL queries using Spring Data or something like that. So you probably see something this. So about now that's going to be out of the box on Java using string templates. So you can see that there is a string processor, the str, there's a dot character, and the template. All right, but the fun thing about the string templates, it's going to be able to perform arithmetic expressions. So you can see here, you have int x equals 10, y equals 20, and then we're using string templates to print the value of x and y, but not only that, also to resolve the expression. So you print 10 plus 20 equals 30. And string templates will also have the capability of invoking methods and accessing fields. So we have somewhere a method get offer type, and then the string templates can invoke these methods and get the result and print here. Okay? The same way, you can access variables, so request date, request time, IP address, and convert to the correct value. You don't need to be declaring variables and everything to get the value of this. You can use right here on the string templates. Also, you have support for multi-line templates. So we saw this on the text blocks. So you can also use them inside text blocks. You can have string templates to resolve values of any string. Right. Also, Java 21, unnamed classes and instance main methods. And that may seem like a small change to Java, but it's something that a lot of people ask it for. And there is even, how do you say, a methodology that calculates how hard it is to do a hello world in your language. Okay? So to do a hello world in Java, you need to declare a class, right? You need to have a main method, then a system out println, right? Public static void main, all those things you need to do that, while other languages you may be using out of the box. Well, if you use JShell, which was released on Java 11, JShell, you can pretty much start working with Java. You don't need to declare the class. It's easier to do a hello world. But people frequently were saying it's hard to start with Java because now I need to understand what is a class. Before I start my hello world, I need to understand what is a class, what is a static, what is this void, and all of this. Thinking about that, the new hello world is this: void main, system out println, right? There is no need to declare a class and anything beside that. We don't even need to have the greeting method here, for example, but it's okay, you can have different methods. Behind the scenes, it will create an anonymous class to invoke this code, but the hello world, you can think it's void main, system out println, hello world, right? There are discussions about the future where you don't even need to do a system out. It's going to be only println. So from all those boilerplate code that we write today to void main, println, hello world. Okay, much simpler. Important.
Oh.
On Java 11 or 12, there was a single class program. So suppose you are on your notepad, you wrote your code, and then you need, maybe not all of you have to do that, but you would need first to compile the class using javac hello world.java, and then you need to Java hello world, okay? But since this single class program was released, if your class, if your file has only one class, all your program has only one class, you don't need to compile it anymore. You don't need to run the javac. You can just run Java hello world. So if I get this code here, I throw on a file and a hello world.java, I just need to do Java hello world.java. That will compile and execute the hello worlds. Okay, so much more simpler. So as you can see, there are many things that are happening to make Java more friendly for beginners. So single class program, a smaller hello world, no pointer exceptions, JShell, that other things that are trying to make Java more friendly for beginners.
And sequence collection, it was a preview in Java 21. And it's about something we use most of the time, and if we think use a collection API, you know there is no standard implementation in the Java collections API to identify the sequence of elements. And this feature aims to standardize the operations between collections and map APIs. So for this purpose, a new family of interfaces was created to standardize the summon common operations between collection types and map. Like the new interfaces, we hear sequence collection and sequence set and sequence map. We have a difference here because set, there are a few methods difference to implement it, plus for the set. And here we can see which operations will be implemented on collections and named uses between map for maintain the same meaning. Like here, we can use it at first, at last, get last. We know now if you try access some element of the collection, you don't have this. We needed use something different for list, something different for set. Don't have a pattern for this. And we guarantee that everyone will have the same pattern to use it. It's more easy and better to maintain the code.
All right, just a quick summary on garbage collectors. There was a lot of change since Java 8 on garbage collectors. Until Java 8, the default choice was the CMS, which is the one to blame that Java is slow, Java is not good, and it was literally the stop-the-world garbage collector. So when CMS kicked in, everything would stop. Your application would hang until the garbage collector completes. Before CMS, we have the serial parallel CMS, and then since Java 9, we have the G1. So G1 was a replacement, again, since Java 9, and it's useful for multiprocessor. And when you have a large amount of memory, okay, that's when G1 is good. Shenandoah, it's low time pause garbage collect, so it tries to have the same pause time no matter what. So if you have a 16 megabytes heap or a 2 terabytes heap, it tries to be constantly pause time. And we have also the epsilon, epsilon garbage collector, which is a garbage collector that do not do anything. Okay, it pretty much doesn't do anything. And the reason for that is that they wanted to have a garbage collector where, when you were running benchmarks, you don't have the impact of a garbage collector. So it will allocate memory but not recycle it. So another useful place for the epsilon is if you have a short-lived process. I don't know, you have like a Lambda, something that's very short. And you know, I know this process is going to kick in, it's going to run for 30 seconds, and I'm going to shut it down. And you don't need a garbage collector for that. So then is when it's a good choice to have the epsilon. And then I wrote here, don't let the JVM pick your garbage collector. Anyone has any idea why? Sorry? Yeah. So he said that maybe Java is not going to pick up the best one for you. So I said that the G1 is the default version, default GC since Java 9. But what happens is that if you have 2 or less CPUs and less than, 2 megabytes of RAM, 2 gigabytes of RAM, the JVM will choose the serial garbage collector for you. So, but why is my garbage collector running so slow? Yeah, so if you do not explicitly tell the compiler to use JVM to use G1, it may not choose G1 as your first choice. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And all those GC, you can pass a flag to decide which garbage collector to use. So you can pass a flag, use G1 GC, use ZGC, and so on, so on, so on. Okay, so do not let the JVM pick your GC. Right, next.
And any questions? Thank you so much.
Questions, and before we open to questions, let's take a picture with everyone.
Say Java is not dying.
Thank you. Questions?
Hi, great presentation to start with. I just have one small question regarding text blocks and the garbage collector. For text blocks, what is the difference regarding string concatenation in terms of performance? Because string concatenation has been deemed with low performance. And for garbage collectors, is it really 2 CPUs or 1 CPU that chooses the serial GC?
If you uses less than 2 threads, if less than two cores, it will, and less than 2 gigs, less than 2 cores, and or less than 2 gigs, it will default to the serial. Regarding text blocks, there is no performance change on using text blocks.
Yes, because besides you use it strings.
Okay, and the benefit is making the code more readable, and also the indentation, because probably you use YAML, or you have used YAML. What happens with YAML if you add one space? Break, right? Amazon came down, AWS was not working for I don't know how many hours because of one space on a YAML file, right? So if you have text block, you know that this indentation will be proper. You don't need to be later calculating if it's right or not. So text block is a good solution for that as well. But there is no performance change using text block.
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. Very clear, very simple, a lot of stuff, but thank you very much for it. And the question that I have is about the records. I saw it's very useful for the standard of immutability. But why is it not serializable? I mean, it fits a lot of the pattern of immutability, but I think it would be very useful if it was like for the full serializable. Is there a good reason for it not be serializable?
So first of all, thank you. Regarding records, there was a architecture decision when they implementing records to not make it serializable by default, but you can make records serializable. You can implement serializable, and you can use it records. Okay? I have used cases where I have a record, I'm creating a record, an application creating a record and persisting to the database, okay? And that works fine. On the other hand, if you use Hibernate, for example, the Hibernate needs you to create, right, a default constructor, and then they use the setters to populate this. And records, for now, it does not work with that, okay? But you can, if you're using Spring Data, you can create a mapper and then map to this record and create a record if you want to extract the data. But still for Hibernate and other frameworks, that's still not possible.
I think the record is mostly useful to objects. It's simple objects like a request object or something you receive it, and you don't do something. It's not for composing your behavior, you know, and it's for just to. Eu esqueci o nome em inglês.
Get it as input?
Get
it as input?
No, it's for. A best naming for this is for simple objects when we use it to only for transfer objects. Transfers objects, maybe.
Objects, yeah.
Valuables, yes, valuables.
One thing to keep in mind in records, and I forgot to mention it, is that I said that the record it's final. So, but that's not completely true, okay? Because if your record has a collection, you cannot change that to be a different collection, but you can change a value within the collection. Okay? So be careful when using records. Okay? That's one catch.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Some other question? No? Thank you.
Thank you.